YouTube, welcome to Team Ragnarok's channel. I have a deck profile for you. I'm member 0 Magnum X. So we're going to zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see it. It's my 4-Civ control type deck, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, to start things off, we have 3 Sprout. Sprouts is a general good card. It reminds me a lot of like older decks and stuff, or I'm sorry, a lot of older Magic the Gathering strategies where they would use Farseek or they'd use Rampant Growth. That's kind of what it is. Up next we have 3 Repins though. It's kind of like a targeted version of Sprout. So one goes into mana and it's a draw, so it cantrips itself and it ramps you by 1. Then we have 3 Mana Storm, which is our main mana ramp in the deck. It allows you to promote your turn 5 to turn 7 plays and to get into that like turn 6 Skull Shatter before your opponent can have a chance to recover. It's just overall a good card. Then we have 2 Tendril Grasp because I don't like Rush. This is a personal preference. Not everyone likes this, but I prefer it because it's anti-rush, it's anti-blurple to some degrees, it's anti-mono blue Cyberlords. It even kind of takes care of Mega Bugs and like somewhat dragons to get rid of their birds. I mean, effectively you're doing the same thing, but at least the birds are going to their mana zone instead of gaining other effects. And then 3 Root Trap. Okay, next up for Dual Civs, we're gonna move into, we have 3 Full Metal Lemon. That will move us to the Light Civilization. So 3 Keeper of Laws, this card is too good. I remember whenever it first came out, I was telling people, I'm like, this thing's insane, you guys need to like look into it, it's only a rare. And everyone's like, oh, it's okay. And I mean, it has hexproof, and every time they play anything but a creature, you get to draw a card. That's just fantastic. It's actually a finishing card for only 4 mana, which is absurd. And it could go to Rush. I mean, it's just all around a great card. Next up, 3 Andromeda of the Citadel. So, there's not much to explain this by now, especially if you're watching this video. This guy's all around a staple, especially in control. I mean, he gives you 2 shields, he makes them tap down dudes whenever they attack you and want to get aggressive. And if they do want to get aggressive, you can just like attack back over. So he's a, or she, I guess, some people consider Andromeda a female, so whatever. Is just it's a huge roadblock for your opponent to get around. They have to have removal or you're going to win. And if they don't, you're going to have Keeper of Laws beside it, maybe even. And they're going to be like, oh, removing, and you still get to draw. So, I mean, it's such great light support we have. Okay, 2 Stormspark Blast. For a long time, I wanted to run 3 of this. I moved it down to 2 for room purposes in the deck. I know it's control and like you make it fit, but 3 might be too much in this. So the only reason I also wanted to run 3 was to stop something like Mega Bugs. So if they ran into it, I just had that turn to swing back and attack over everything they have. But you know, it doesn't really do that well. I mean, that in that case, it's a fog into like removing their creatures, but it doesn't really do much outside of that. So Stormspark Blast, it's mostly there for you to break up the like control mirror. You can just tap down their dudes and then get rid of their board. 2 Lyra. I'm only running 2 because mostly I don't have a 3rd one, and I don't know, I've always been in this weird position where like I think I only ever wanted 2 Lyra. Like 3 would have been okay, would have been good, but like a 2F seems to be the right niche for 4 color. If you're doing 3 color, definitely run 3 Lyra and bump it up, but I think in 4 color, only 2 is necessary. Okay, then we have 3 Pearson Judgement. It's basically a better Val Vortex. I mean, that's all it is. It stops 2 dudes from attacking you instead of 1 if they have 3 on the board and then 1 hits it. So, I mean, it's okay. It can rebalance your stuff, so if you want to get more use out of it. We have 3 Aqua Strider, staple blocker by now. I mean, King Tritonus, this guy's 8,000, so I mean, it just gets in the way of so much. And it's only 2 mana for 4,000, which is just good. 3 Bottle of Wishes. Typically in this deck, you just never ever hardcast this card unless you're like in a dire kind of situation, which hopefully you shouldn't be or probably losing anyway, but it's generally there to get you card draw or to promote cards on your side of the board. I mean, even if they hit a Shield Blast and you hit like a Sprout or a Mana Storm because they attacked into it, it's giving you mana for your next move, and it's giving you more playable cards. So, I mean, what sucks is whenever you run into like a Mesmerize and they don't have any hand after they've attacked into your Bottle of Wishes. So, that's the only downside in this deck, really. 3 Crystal Memory. I was running decks without this before, or even just like as a one of, and that's fine for like tempo small decks, but in Control you absolutely need 3. People will say you only need 2, but this card is just too good because it goes to your mana for your blue source if you need it. And then likewise, whenever they hit it as Shield Blast, you're just able to find anything you need. I mean, there's been plenty of times whenever this is my turn 4 play and Mana Storm was my turn 5 play. And then I ended up getting another memory, tapping 4 for a keeper, tapping 4 for memory, and going and getting Andromeda. So, I mean, it just opens up a ton of plays for the deck. Tritonus, I should not have to explain why this guy's in Control. He's like staple for Control. He draws you cards whenever you're exhausted in your mana, especially in this kind of deck, and you're just like, oh, I'm sitting at 10 mana, and he's in my hand, bam, you know, there's 5 more cards, and then I can just keep going, and that's what Control really wants, is just to keep pushing forward, keep moving. After they've, like, established a board state, they need that extra push, and Tritonus gets them there. Okay, 1 Scourge. A lot of people are running 2 or 3 of this guy. I'm only running 1 because, for one, this deck was a contemplation between Magic the Gathering Pro, Jerry Thompson, and myself, trying to figure out the best way to run it. And Scourge is very, very good, but it's a game-winning card whenever you have your bombs established. It's not really a card you want to focus around, because it can be really, really bad when that becomes the case. I mean, it's only 8,000, so, you know, there's a lot of cards that can just directly attack over it, so it's literally a finishing move. And you might just find yourself where you don't simply need this card, and it can go into mana, and you're just able to finish him off with, like, 2 Andromedas, a Tritonus, and Keeper of Laws, so. Okay, 2 Gribble Despair. I really, really like this card. I mean, this is a personal player preference. Like, I'm ecstatic that I think there's foils in the Triple Strike, so I can't wait to get them. I love the artwork. I just love being able to get rid of a threat and it being a better Veil Vortex, and then they have to get rid of a card from their hand, which could have been their mana next turn or resource. So when they run into this, it's also an awesome, awesome way to get around Lux. I mean, if you think, like, Root Trap is good, so is this. Especially if they're like, oh, I have an Andromeda, this was my top deck because, you know, we're Control and we've discarded your hand. And they're like, oh, neat, you know, Andromeda, it saved me. And then you're like, Gribble Despair because they have a Lux out somehow. And, you know, you just take care of that entire problem in one single move. So I love Grip. I was running 3 of it. Jerry said, hey, you know, put it to 2. So I'm trying it out at 2. It seems to work. I see it enough to not complain. I really hate whenever I get them in my hand, though. So, I mean, it is what it is. I love it as a Shield Blast. I don't really like it as a 5-mana card, but sometimes they will get the job done if they only have 1 card on the field and in hand, and you can just take the board over from that point on. Okay, Bone Blades, because I hate Rush. So, I mean, there's no other explanation. It just kills Rush strategies. Mesmerize because it's Control. I mean, you're going to be needing to get rid of their hand and pieces of their hand, so you... And it gives you information. I mean, it's... I don't like it as a 1-for-1, but in all honesty, it's a very good card in Control type builds, and you won't want to leave home without it in Control decks. I mean, it's necessary. 3 Terrapit, general removal. I mean, these are basically your Doom Blades, if you will, or your Murders, or whatever you want to call them. Just, yeah, I guess Murder's a better card choice name for any Magic the Gathering players on the site and watching this video. It's just all around kill your dude. It's instant speed if they hit it as Shield Blast. I mean, it's a staple, guys. Even mid-range, like, Blurple type decks run it. Even like tempo aggro decks type run it, just because if they hit it as a Shield Blast, it gets rid of it, dude. It's just such an efficient card. Okay, now 2 Scare Adorable Gloom Hollows. Why not 3? Because I only own 2. And I already have 8 blockers, which is quite a bit. I might just add 1 Gloom Hollow whenever I get another one to the deck, because he's just such a good card. But yeah, 2 right now. Then 1 Fortress, because it makes your blockers really, really bad for your opponent whenever they want to attack or kill your blockers. It just sits there and does so much. It makes like their thinking process so much more in depth and everything else. So it's just a good card to get in the way. And finally, Skull Shatter. I shouldn't have to explain why this card's in here. It's control. This card just discards their hand. It's all around good. So anyway, YouTube, on behalf of Team Ragnarok, this is Zero Magnum X. This is my 4-Civ control deck, and I hope you guys enjoyed the deck showcase and a little bit of strategy behind it. And please remember to favorite, comment, and subscribe. Remember, YouTube, keep calm and game on.